This is the track to my Kreg Plunge saw. I recently added the extension, and you can check out the link to the video below where I talk through getting the extension and assembling everything together. I don't always need it this long though. When I'm cutting long sheet goods, like 4x8 sheets of plywood, I definitely need the length, but normally I just need the original half of this. So what I need for this is a storage system. I want to be able to store each part individually, along with the components used to assemble it together. Then I want these easily accessible, so when I do want to make those longer cuts, I can grab all the pieces, get it assembled, and get those cuts made. 3D printing is going to come in super handy for this, and I'm going to design at the computer a mount that I can 3D print to store all this in. Let's head to the computer and get rolling on the design. Now that I'm at the computer, I've 3D modeled a few components in my CAD software. Let's go ahead and take a look at those. If you look here, like I said, I have two components. They're very similar, with the left one being a bit longer and having some extra storage here for the compression plates that hold the two pieces of the track saw together. If I rotate everything around here, we can see on the back side, I have these slots that the track saw will be able to slide into. So each of these pieces will be separated the length of the track saw, and I can mount them to the wall and then simply slide the track saw pieces in and slide the compression plates and screws into that area for storage. It's a fairly simple design with 3 screw holes for each piece that can be easily mounted to the wall. Now I go ahead and take you over to the 3D printer software where I can talk through some of the complexities of 3D printing that don't show up when you're doing woodworking. Here's the right piece that I have in the 3D printer software. The slicing software handles telling the 3D printer how to print this thing. The way a 3D printer works is it's creating each of these pieces by an individual layer. And so the first thing I need to decide is what orientation I want to print this in. One option for printing this is to lay it face down on the print bed. Now, whereas that would create a nice smooth finish on that side of the piece, what's going to cause me problems are these holes that are made for the screws. These holes are countersunk into the piece, and so these flat pieces on the inside would be printing in midair, which means I would need to add additional support material to hold those on while they're printing. That causes the surface layers to be bumpy, which isn't a big deal, but I'd rather not use supports. Another issue you have is when you're printing these large flat surfaces on the bed, the corners of those pieces can tend to curve up due to the different changes in temperature as the material is drying. Because of that, I decided that I'm going to print this tall. So let me go ahead and flip that back up and print with this surface up. One thing you'll notice on the back of this is I have holes. So another thing you want to keep in mind when you're 3D printing is try to subtract some of the materials that you don't use. There's no need for me to fill up this area here with a bunch of plastic as well as this area. Now you'll notice that I designed these two spots differently. That has to do with the orientation in which I'm printing stuff in. If I go ahead and switch over to this prepare for print mode, what we can do is we can see layer by layer how this object is going to print. And you'll see that the reason I have circles on the bottom is that so each layer after the preceding layer has something to support it with. So that once I get to the top of the circle, it's fully supported, which means I need no support material added into that, which saves me a lot of plastic. Since the other one's printing vertically, I'm fine printing up the sides and printing up the sides, and then once I get to the top, the curved area can support itself as it bridges across that gap. This view gives us a good example of exactly how it's going to print all the way up. Here's the final 3D printed pieces. As you can see, they have a good surface finish. They printed in this direction, so I didn't need any support for these holes because they're printing in circles, and each layer has support from the previous layer. On the inside, the same thing, I have the circles at the bottom, and I did not need any support in those, which gives me a nice smooth finish, along with the subtraction of this material, so I'm not wasting a bunch of extra print time and a bunch of material filling those in. These are pretty heavy duty parts. If I go to the other piece, same thing happens with the circles down at the bottom and the opening gap to save on material. The only difference with this one is it's been extended out so I can fit those pieces used to assemble the two pieces of the track saw together. That's all it was for 3D printing. It was about 6.5 hours to print the smaller piece and about 8.5 hours to print the larger one. Now it's time to head out to the shop, get these mounted up on the wall, and install the track saw in it. Now that I've got everything 3D printed, it's time to get this beast disassembled and everything mounted to the wall. Well, that's a wrap on this project, and I think it turned out pretty well. It holds both sections and keeps them up out of the way until I need them. I can grab one section and use it to cut shorter sheet goods, and I can also grab both sections along with the pieces needed to assemble it and cut those longer sections when I need it. This really worked out nicely for me, so I'm going to put it up in my online store in case you think it'll work out well for you. So if you want to buy that, feel free to head over there and take a look at it, as well as the other things that I have up for sale. If you like this video, feel free to scroll down below, click that like button. If you want to see more 3D printing videos from me or more shop organization videos from me, feel free to head down to the comments and let me know. Other than that, hit that subscribe button so you'll know when my next video comes out. I really enjoyed doing this project, and I hope to see you on the next one. Until then, happy making.